Have you ever given someone your heart, only to feel like they never truly held it with care? You gave time, attention, energy. You stayed up wondering if the message was too much or not enough. You rearranged pieces of your life to keep them in it, only to wake up one day and realize they were already gone. No explanation, just silence. A void where connection used to live. And the worst part? That voice inside you whispering, "What did I do wrong?" Let me tell you something no one teaches us growing up. When you make someone your sun, you become a shadow. When you orbit them, hoping to be enough, you kill the very mystery that draws them in. You see, the moment she knew she could summon your world with a text, a glance, a pout, she stopped feeling pulled. Not because you weren't good enough, but because you gave too much without her needing to earn it. This isn't about playing games. It's about power, the quiet kind. The kind Marcus Aurelius spoke of when he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Today, we'll walk through what happens when a man finally reclaims that power, not through anger, not through revenge, but through detachment. We'll explore why your absence can speak louder than any apology, why emotional stillness creates desire, and how true masculinity isn't loud or forceful. It's grounded, present, and unshakable. Because the truth is, women don't long for the man who was always there. They ache for the one who walked away, not to punish, but to evolve. And if you've ever felt that ache of being invisible while giving your everything, this video is for you. By the end of this journey, you won't be wondering why she left. You'll be living in a space where it no longer matters. Where peace, not approval, defines your worth. Where you walk with the kind of calm that makes people wonder, who is that man? So if you're tired of chasing, if you're ready to stop being the man who waits and start being the one who leads, subscribe to Stoic Now. Leave a comment, tell us your story. Not to impress, but to connect. Because here, we don't fix ourselves to be loved. We grow to remember who we were before the world told us we weren't enough. Now, let's step into the fire. Let's begin the journey into detachment, discipline, and the kind of masculine power that doesn't scream, but echoes in silence. Number 1, the weight of neediness. There's a subtle desperation in a man who gives too much, too soon. It's not in his words, it's in his energy. The constant texting, the checking in, the rearranging of his schedule to fit hers. He believes he's showing love, loyalty, commitment. But to her primal instincts, it signals something else, dependency. And nothing kills attraction faster. Neediness is emotional poverty. It's the unspoken message that says, "I need you to validate my worth." And a man who carries that message, no matter how noble his intentions, begins to lose value in her eyes. Not because she's cruel, but because, deep down, every human being wants to feel drawn towards something, not suffocated by it. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." And in relationships, craving too much of someone else's attention, approval, or affection turns abundance into scarcity. The more you seek to prove your worth, the more you reveal that you haven't yet found it. Here's the trap. Society often teaches us that to win someone's heart, we must try harder, give more, show devotion. But attraction isn't a transaction. It's resonance. And the man who sacrifices his self-respect for affection is offering a discount version of himself, a version no one truly desires. A man rooted in himself doesn't need to beg. He doesn't need to prove. He gives, not because he wants something in return, but because he's full, whole, alive in his purpose. That fullness is magnetic. That stability is rare. And that's exactly what women and the world gravitate toward. If you're always the one initiating, if you're apologizing for expressing yourself, if you're giving access to your emotional world without boundaries, it's time to stop. Not to punish her, not to become cold, but to honor yourself. Because your energy, your peace, your time, it's sacred. And it's only when you start treating it that way that others will too. True value doesn't scream. It doesn't plead. It walks with calm. It speaks through action. It says, "I know who I am. And I don't chase, because I don't need to." The next time you feel the urge to double text or to over-explain your silence, pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, am I doing this from confidence or fear? From fullness or emptiness? That single moment of self-awareness can shift the entire trajectory of your emotional life. Remember, attraction is a dance, not a rescue mission. And a man who leads with self-respect, who isn't afraid to let go, creates a gravity that pulls the right people in. Not because he needs them, but because he's become someone worth orbiting. Marcus Aurelius taught, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. So be one. Not through need, but through presence. Through standards. Through stillness. Your journey doesn't start when she responds. It starts when you stop reaching out from fear. When you begin to honor yourself not as an option, but as the prize. And when that shift happens, something incredible begins to unfold. You stop being the man chasing affection and start becoming the man she never expected to lose. Number 2, the mystery she cannot tame. Women are drawn not to clarity, but to contrast. Not to what they can grasp fully, but to what remains just out of reach. In a world where most men lay their hearts bare too soon, the man who holds something back, who contains a silent storm of discipline and presence, becomes the enigma they can't help but notice. When you step back from the pedestal she once placed herself upon, without bitterness or resentment, but with calm detachment, you dismantle her sense of control. You shift the emotional rhythm she had come to rely on. And in that stillness, that unexpected absence, she begins to feel something she can't explain. Intrigue. It isn't you she's missing. Not truly. What she mourns is the ease with which she could once summon you. With a single glance, a soft message, a slight show of vulnerability, she used to have your full attention. But now? Now the silence echoes. Now the space where your energy used to live feels unfamiliar. And that unfamiliarity is deeply unsettling. Epictetus wrote, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." And when you detach, when you refuse to be emotionally dictated by her reactions, you reclaim that freedom. Your detachment isn't cruelty, it's clarity. It's the declaration that your world does not revolve around her whims. This isn't about punishment. It's about power, not over her, but within yourself. The kind of power that whispers instead of shouts. The kind that doesn't need to demand attention to command it. And ironically, it's in that silence, that inward composure, where your most magnetic energy is born. She starts to question, why isn't he chasing? Did I lose my grip? Was I wrong about him? And those questions spin endlessly, not because you manipulated her, but because you stopped orbiting her. You became the son of your own system, the man who lives for himself, who honors his path, who places mission before emotion. He awakens something in her beyond desire. He awakens respect, and not the shallow kind built on status or success, but the deep-rooted kind reserved for those who cannot be moved by mere attention. When you walk away not to escape, but to evolve, you reveal a strength few possess. And in that revelation, something stirs inside her, not a longing to be loved better, but a yearning to reclaim the control she thought she had. Yet it's gone, because you have finally chosen yourself. You are no longer the echo of her call. You are the silence that makes her wonder if she ever truly understood who you were. And that silence? It speaks louder than any love song ever could. Number 3, detachment, the ultimate power. Real detachment doesn't look like revenge. It doesn't feel like distance laced with resentment. It feels like peace. A calm so complete, it becomes unnerving to those who once stirred you. When you finally stop trying to change someone's mind, to earn back their attention, to win their affection, you don't lose your power. You claim it. The Stoics taught that what is outside your control is not only irrelevant to your inner peace, it is, in many ways, a test of it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside of its." Realize this, and you will find strength. That strength isn't flashy. It isn't loud. It's the quiet resolve in the man who no longer allows another's validation to dictate his worth. Detachment means no longer reacting from wounded pride. It means seeing her games and not needing to play. It means recognizing her patterns and choosing stillness over engagement. You are no longer her emotional puppet. You are the observer. And in that observation, you find liberation. Every message left unanswered. Every story she posts for your attention. Every attempt to reel you back in. None of it moves you anymore. Not because you don't care, but because you care about yourself more. And that's a rare thing in a world that teaches men to prove their love with self-abandonment. A detached man doesn't chase closure. He becomes it. He doesn't beg for clarity, he lives in clarity. He doesn't try to be the hero in her story, he writes his own. And in doing so, he rises. Not as a rebel, not as a victim, but as a sovereign soul who has mastered the one thing most never will, himself. She will sense it. They all do. The shift in your tone, the calm in your eyes, the absence of need. And it will either draw her in or drive her away, but either way, you will not be moved. Because detachment isn't about not feeling. It's about not needing. It's about recognizing that your peace is too expensive to trade for temporary attention. When you no longer need to be chosen, you become the one who chooses. When you no longer fear being forgotten, you become unforgettable. This is not arrogance. It's alignment. The rare clarity of a man who knows that what's meant for him cannot be lost, and what's not meant for him cannot be kept. That, my friend, is detachment. And in that space, quiet, grounded, whole, you become the man she never saw coming, and the one she will never truly get over. Number 4, the magnetism of emotional discipline. In a world that constantly tells men to express everything, there's power in the one who doesn't. Not suppression, but precision. The man who shares selectively, who guards his inner world, who refuses to bleed for attention, he radiates control. And control, in its highest form, becomes irresistible. Emotional discipline isn't about being cold, it's about being composed. It's knowing that your heart is not a free-for-all, that your vulnerability is sacred, and that not everyone has earned the right to witness it. This restraint doesn't diminish intimacy, it deepens it. Because what's rare is valued. The Stoics believed in temperance, not the denial of feeling, but mastery over it. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." When you govern your emotions, you become a fortress, not a cage. A source of strength, not volatility. You see, chaos is familiar to many. Drama is intoxicating. But stillness? That's rare. And in that rarity lies your allure. The man who doesn't react impulsively, who pauses before speaking, who maintains his equilibrium, he disorients. Not because he's playing games, but because he's moved beyond them. When she pulls away and you don't chase, when she tests and you don't flinch, when she opens the door and you calmly consider whether to walk through it, that is the posture of power. Not dominance over her, but dominance over your own impulses. This emotional control sparks curiosity. She wonders, what does he feel? What is he thinking? Why isn't he unraveling like the others? And in that wondering, she invests. She leans in. Because silence creates space. And space is where desire grows. The disciplined man doesn't speak to be heard. He speaks to be understood. He doesn't react for validation. He moves with purpose. And in every movement, every moment, he communicates one unshakable truth. My peace is not negotiable. She may not say it out loud, but she feels it. In your posture, in your pause, in the way you hold your ground when everything in her is trying to pull you off center. This isn't emotional distance, it's emotional sovereignty. And the man who possesses it becomes the axis around which the emotional world rotates, not because he demands it, but because he embodies it. So don't fear being the mystery. Don't rush to prove you care. Don't hand over your emotional world like a gift to someone who hasn't earned it. Stay still. Stay grounded. Let your presence say what your words no longer need to. Because in the end, the man who disciplines his emotions isn't just attractive, he's unforgettable. Number 5, the power of deliberate absence. There is an allure in being missed, but not for the sake of manipulation. The man who learns to withdraw with grace, who understands the potency of presence and absence, steps into a dimension of attraction that most never reach. Absence, when intentional, is not distance, it's a mirror. It reflects her experience of you, not through your effort, but through your absence of it. Most men fear being forgotten, so they linger. They hover in texts, in stories, in presence. But the wise man understands that being unforgettable isn't about staying visible, it's about being irreplaceable. And that only happens when your energy was once felt deeply, and now profoundly missed. Seneca said, sometimes even to live is an act of courage. And to live your life fully, away from the validation of a woman's attention, requires that same courage. You disappear not to create a reaction, but to create a revelation. She begins to question not only your silence, but her role in your absence. You see, when you vanish not in bitterness but in peace, something shifts. She stops wondering what you're doing and starts wondering who you've become. Silence becomes a teacher, and your stillness becomes a storm. But here's the key, it's not about cutting ties recklessly. It's about establishing boundaries with dignity. You don't burn bridges, you walk away with such calm resolve that she questions why she ever took your presence for granted. This absence, it doesn't beg. It doesn't flash warnings. It simply is. And in its stillness, it speaks, I am not where I was. I have risen. And when she feels that shift, not in your words, but in your complete, grounded disappearance, her mind starts to race. not because you punished her, but because you outgrew the version of yourself that needed her approval. This isn't a tactic. It's a transition. From the man who once waited for replies to the man who no longer needs to ask the question. Because when you live from purpose, when your days are full of meaning and your nights filled with peace, you become more than just a memory. You become the standard, not by force, but by evolution. And in her heart, something lingers, not the man you were, but the man she never truly got to know, the one who stopped showing up not out of spite, but out of self-respect. That's the kind of absence that doesn't fade. That's the space no one else can fill. Number 6, her response to your withdrawal. She feels it long before she admits it. The stillness, the silence, the sudden vacuum where your energy used to pulse with devotion and attention. At first, she brushes it off. Maybe you're just busy. Maybe you'll come back. You always did. But as the hours stretch into days, and the days lose their rhythm without your name lighting up her phone, doubt begins to bloom. This is not about love, not yet. It's about control. When a man consistently shows up, replies quickly, adjusts his tone to hers, bends to her rhythm, he becomes predictable. And predictable is comfortable. Comfort is mistaken for power. But now that power is slipping, your silence disrupts her narrative, the one where she held the emotional reins, where a half-hearted message from her could reel you back in. Now, the bait goes untouched. And with every ignored breadcrumb, a song lyric, a memory, a "Hey stranger" text, her confidence falters. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." The Stoic response to emotional manipulation is not retaliation, it's transformation. You've not retaliated. You've risen. You've redirected your energy away from seeking and into becoming. And that shift is seismic. She will test the waters. First with subtlety, a like on your story, a comment on a post. Then more directly, a message crafted to spark nostalgia, or worse, guilt. I was thinking about that night we watched the stars. But the real message behind it? Are you still mine to summon? Here's where many falter. The moment her energy reappears, they spring to life, hearts leaping, believing it's reconciliation. But what it truly is assessment. She's not necessarily seeking reconnection. She's seeking reassurance of control. But you don't react. Not from coldness, but from clarity. You've moved your center inward. Her attempts don't land the same, because you're no longer orbiting her world. You've built your own. That's what stings her more than any silence. The realization that your peace no longer needs her participation. She may escalate. Messages might carry more urgency or a passive-aggressive tone. She might invoke the past, question your loyalty, accuse you of heartlessness. But these are not signs of her love. They are the flailing arms of someone losing emotional leverage. And you, rooted in stoic detachment, hold firm. Because you remember why you withdrew. Not to win her back, but to win yourself. Not to prove something to her, but to honor what you've become. She is not the enemy, but the dynamic was. And the only way to escape it was not through confrontation, but through elevation. So you remain still, responsive if needed, but never reactive. You don't feed the fire. You let the embers die naturally. Because the man who is no longer emotionally baited is the man who has mastered himself. And in mastering yourself, you become the kind of presence that echoes louder in your absence than in your words. That's when she starts to feel it, not just the loss of you, but the loss of her reflection in your eyes. And for the first time, she sees not who you were, but who you are now, a man no longer waiting, but walking forward. Number 7, she mirrors your energy. There's a moment that catches you off guard, not because it's loud or dramatic, but because it's subtle, almost silent. The same woman who once kept her distance is now leaning in. Her replies get quicker. Her messages carry warmth where there was once cold. She starts to notice the details, your tone, your presence, your silence, and she adjusts hers accordingly. But don't be fooled. This is not necessarily a rebirth of affection. It's a recalibration. You've changed the dynamic. The emotional seesaw that once kept her up high while you stayed grounded is tilted. And she feels the imbalance, not just in her mind, but in her nervous system. People crave equilibrium, especially when it comes to emotional control. So, when you detach and no longer orbit her moods, her attention, her validation, she unconsciously begins to mirror the new energy. This isn't manipulation. This is physics. What you radiate, you attract. And when what you radiate is calm, contained power, people instinctively lean in to match it. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." When you were chasing her, she had no reason to imagine. You were there, predictable, present, pliable. But now that you've removed your energy, her imagination begins to stretch. What's he doing? Why is he so calm? Has he moved on? And in that silent space, your power grows. She'll test the waters, not with full confessions, but breadcrumbs. An old picture light. A late-night text. An accidental story view. It's not love, it's assessment. She wants to know if her spell still holds. And here lies your test. Do you leap back into old patterns at the first sign of warmth? Do you mistake curiosity for commitment? Or do you hold your frame, solid, unmoved, focused? The man who's mastered detachment doesn't waver at the echo of old emotions. He observes, acknowledges, but remains centered. Her attempts don't inflate his ego, nor do they rattle his peace. He knows the energy she's reflecting isn't hers yet. It's borrowed, mirrored, a response, not a reinvention. Your mission is to stay steady. Don't ramp up your attention. Don't suddenly flood her inbox with validation. Stay the course. Let her prove that this new version of herself is real, not reactive. Because if she's truly changed, she won't just mirror your energy. She'll meet you in it. She'll show up with presence, with vulnerability, with consistency. And if she doesn't, that tells you everything you need to know. In the Stoic journey, energy must be protected, not poured out to those who haven't earned it. Epictetus said, "You become what you give your attention to." Give your attention to your growth, to your mission, to your inner peace. And if she aligns with that, not just in moments of loss, but in seasons of your strength, then, and only then, can connection begin anew. Until then, let her mirror you. Because it's not her behavior that matters most. It's yours. You are no longer the man who chases. You are the man who leads, even in silence. Number 8. The fear that she was just a phase. There's a particular silence that unsettles her, not because it's cold or empty, but because it's peaceful. She expected the silence to be temporary, a pause before you came crawling back. But this stillness stretches, and within it, the truth begins to bloom. Maybe she was just a phase. This isn't about cruelty. It's not revenge. It's the organic consequence of growth. You've evolved beyond the need to prove your worth to someone who couldn't see it. You no longer orbit her validation, her attention, her approval. You've built something greater, an inner world so full it no longer echoes with her absence. And now, without fanfare, she begins to feel the void. Not the void of love lost, but of control relinquished. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Your thoughts used to be stained with longing. Now they are tinted with focus, with purpose. And she senses the color shift, even if she can't name it. It begins subtly. A thought in the night. A scroll through your old messages. A glance at your profile, wondering if the calm on your face is real or a mask. And soon, it becomes obsession. Not with who you were, but with who you've become. The man who no longer reacts. The man who no longer waits. She wonders, did I ever matter? But the real ache is deeper. Was I ever irreplaceable? And the answer terrifies her. Because what once made her feel special, your constant reassurance, your devotion, your longing has vanished. It's been replaced by an energy she can't reach, an identity she can't influence. You've become a standard she's no longer certain she can meet. But this transformation wasn't meant to punish. It was meant to free you. In the Stoic path, peace is not the absence of feeling, it's the mastery of it. Seneca said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." You faced the adversity of detachment, and in doing so, proved something sacred. Your peace is not for sale. And now, you are not the memory she replays to feel desired. You are the benchmark she uses to measure every new interaction. The one who didn't just walk away, but rose while doing it. She was never prepared for this version of you. The version that didn't need closure. The version that needed no audience to evolve. This is where her regret is born, not in your silence, but in your stability. And you? You keep walking, not to escape her, but to meet yourself. Because you were never meant to be someone's face. You were always meant to be your own foundation. Number 9. You become irreplaceable. In the beginning, she believed you'd always be there, not just physically, but emotionally, energetically. You were the fallback, the safe harbor, the man who waited. In her mind, no matter what distance she created or what boundary she crossed, you'd still come back, arms wide, ready to reset the story. And for a time, that was true. But something changed. Slowly, quietly, without confrontation, without fanfare. You evolved. And now, she doesn't recognize the man she once had easy access to. You've stopped chasing, stopped proving, stopped revolving around her gravitational pull. This isn't about scarcity. It's about transformation. When you walk away not out of bitterness, but from alignment, your energy shifts in ways no words can capture. You're not posturing. You're not pretending to be okay. You are okay, and that terrifies her. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." You no longer crave her attention to feel full. You are full, and in that fullness, you become irreplaceable, not because you withhold yourself, but because you've cultivated a life that no longer needs to revolve around anyone's approval. You are centered, grounded, magnetic. While others seek validation, you build. While others chase, you choose. And that kind of man is rare. She can meet a dozen others who might be more available, more eager, more visibly devoted. But what they offer in quantity, they lack in quality. They haven't done the inner work. They haven't stood in their own stillness long enough to face the void. You did. And in that, you became unforgettable. Now, when she meets someone new, there's always a comparison. Does he hold himself like you did? Is his silence as comfortable? Does he have the same depth in his gaze, the one that said, "I choose to be here, not because I need to, but because I want to"? Most won't. And slowly, you stop being a chapter. You become the whole story she never finished reading. But for you, that's no longer the point. You're not here to be remembered. You're here to be real, to be whole, to be free. Because in mastering detachment, you didn't just let go of her, you reclaimed yourself. And in doing so, you became the kind of man the world doesn't forget. Number 10. Why women chase the withdrawn man. Here's the paradox that leaves many men confused. The moment you step back, the moment you detach with dignity, the chase begins, but not yours. Hers. Why does this happen? Because human psychology has a funny way of valuing what is just beyond reach. It isn't manipulation. It isn't some strategy pulled from a playbook. It's the truth that when something becomes less available, its perceived value increases. She felt secure when you were always there, texting first, over-explaining, waiting. You were a constant, and constants are easy to overlook. But the day you stopped orbiting her, the gravity in her universe shifted. Now, every unanswered message, every unreturned glance, every peaceful silence creates a vacuum. And nature, emotional nature included, abhors a vacuum. She begins to question, not necessarily out of love, but out of uncertainty. Why isn't he chasing anymore? Did I lose my hold on him? Has he found someone else? And those questions lead to actions, the sudden messages, the likes on old photos, the curious check-ins that don't say much, but mean everything. You see, when you detach from needing her, you inadvertently become the object of her curiosity again. And curiosity breeds attention. Attention breeds desire. But here's the key. The moment you chase her again, the spell breaks. She doesn't want the man who needs her to feel whole. She wants the man who is whole without her. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." The good man, the grounded man, he doesn't perform detachment. He lives it. So when she comes back, and she will, remember this, it's not about punishment, revenge, or playing games. It's about holding the line you drew not to win her back, but to honor your growth. If she meets you there, with respect, clarity, and intention, maybe there's something real to build. But if it's just her need to feel in control again, you'll know. And you'll choose accordingly. Because a man who lives by principle doesn't dance to the rhythm of someone else's indecision. You've stepped out of the loop. You've become the question, not the answer. And that, my friend, is why they chase. Stay grounded and watch what follows. Final reflection. At the end of it all, this journey isn't about getting her back. It's not about proving your worth to someone who once overlooked it. It's about returning to yourself, to the man you forgot you were while trying so hard to be enough. You see, when you stop trying to force something, you allow it to show you what it truly is. When you stop begging for affection, you make space for self-respect to grow. And in that space, you realize that love, true, sacred love, can never come from a place of emptiness. It must rise from fullness. Seneca once wrote, "He is most powerful who has power over himself." That's what you've built here. A fortress of calm. A core that does not sway. A voice inside that no longer needs approval to speak truth. This isn't about playing cold. It's about staying warm for yourself. It's about making peace with silence. About finding beauty in your own rhythm. About waking up in the morning, not wondering if she'll text, but asking yourself, how will I honor my power today? You'll find that the more you live from this place, the more life responds to you with grace. People treat you differently. They sense something in you, something grounded, whole, untouchable. And some will try to test it. Others will try to match it. But none will forget it. You've become the standard, not through arrogance, but through alignment. not by proving anything, but by remembering everything you were always meant to be. So if this message spoke to you, if it stirred something within you that's been dormant for too long, let it rise. Like still water breaking into tide, let it carry you forward. Leave a comment. Share your story. Subscribe to Stoic Now, not for me, but for you. For the man who wants to be more than just remembered. For the man who's ready to be reborn. Because in the end, you don't win her back by waiting. You win your life back by walking forward. And when you do, you'll realize this. What you let go of wasn't love, it was a lesson. And the man you become in its absence is the one you were always meant to be.